Hi, I'm Scott for ediblemusic.com. Maybe you got a new interface recently, or you're looking through a software bundle that you got. You're getting to know a product called FAST Balancer. This is a useful tool if you're having trouble getting either an individual track to get the tone to where you'd like it to be, or groups of tracks in order to get them fitting around each other a little bit better. Here's how it works. We'll use this chill song. It's good, isn't it? Classic. Okay, let's get it set up on the kick. And we'll hit learn in a moment, but what it will do is it will learn the track, and then we can specify what part of the arrangement that track is on. Then we'll be able to adjust the priorities of the filters, whether to warm, neutral, or bright, as well as the intensity. So let's hit learn. Okay, it's on universal right now. Let's solo the kick for a second and listen to what it's doing. That graphic on the bottom is meant to indicate which areas of the frequency spectrum are being affected. Crank up the intensity. Now let's switch it over to kick. It's pretty nice. Now, how this works is that it listens to the track, presumably to get a sense of the frequency and the transient information, and then it'll process it through these categories. Notice that each of these are quite different from one another. There's universal, of course. Vocals have a varying melody, a lot of different frequency information coming through. Keys as well can be really broad. I'm not sure. We'll maybe have to explore that. And then on percussion here, percussion usually will hit pretty much the same frequency area. The sounds of these categories have different characteristics. Drums are sharp, they're percussive of course, and they usually have a relatively steady frequency. Then the acoustic guitar has a general frequency range, as does the bass, as do vocals. So I think it's making some assumptions in addition to reading our individual track. And from what I can tell is that the plugin will locate our sound within these frequency bands that it has preset. And how it's determined these categories, universal, kick, bass, is by listening to thousands of songs and then taking an average among all of those as an indicator that that's where the track should be at. And so it's going to guide your track towards that as well. Now let's try it on the snare. We'll let it finish up learning. And we'll keep the mix going. Just see how the snare changes. So that's pretty interesting. The warm is generally focused on the bottom part of the snare, while bright is focused on the top. Let's try it on hi-hats now. And while you're working on this, I think it's useful to keep your ears out for not just how it changes the individual track that you're working on, that you're applying the processing to, but also how it changes the relationship of that track to the rest of the arrangement. So let's listen to it on hi-hats. It already has some pretty significant lower frequency energy, so let's try neutral. And you can see by the ways that that frequency graph is colored, it looks like it's applying a low cut on the bottom, a boost up at the top, and a cut in the middle here, whereas here there's a low cut applied, and probably a bit of a boost at the top, but less of a cut, maybe even a small boost in the middle there. I kind of liked it on the neutral setting here. Brings out some of the top of the snare. Not bad. Okay, so that's how you can use it on percussive instruments. Let's try it on this lead here. And the thing is, among those categories that we saw, how would you characterize this? A lead synth like this? We could try keys. Let's try keys. Yeah, let's try it on a vocal one though. So look at all that processing that it's doing there. Yeah, that's pretty nice. It adds a bit of width to the sound. Now, something that I'd like to test out is how it works when we're applying it to groups of tracks. So I'm going to apply this to all of the drums, and let's see what it does. Say, for example, I'd like to process the drum group, but I want to focus on the snare. Oh, that's interesting. okay, this is actually really interesting and educational for us because it tells us a lot more clearly when you have a whole range of instruments happening at the same time, a whole wide range of frequencies occurring, then we can have a better sense of what the plugin is actually affecting. So if we have the whole drum group going, we've got the kick down at the bottom, we've got the snare and the hi-hat. But on the hi-hat setting, it applies a pretty steep low cut. So we don't even really have the kick in the sound anymore. But if you're working with just a stereo track, for example, what if you could let that focus on the highs, and then maybe you could apply a second fast balancer to the low end. That is interesting. So let's hear how that sounds together. Oh, obviously we got very far away from how we were initially. Let's let our ears get reacclimated to how this balance sounds. So if you wanted to, you could try to do things in parallel. And as we did here with the lead synth, we didn't worry about the categories so much, but it is worthwhile to analyze it for a second and consider, okay, what are the characteristics of these instruments that have given them the categories that they have? You've got universal, which is a general setting. Then you've got melodic instruments that each have their own usual frequency ranges and characteristics themselves, and then each of the percussion categories have their own characteristics too. So if you're working with a track, you could try to get it aligned with one of those some of those characteristics in those categories, but maybe don't worry about it so much and let yourself experiment. See what happens. Maybe it'll sound great. Yeah, right on. And by no means did this track sound bad at the beginning. I liked the initial balance. There's not really any processing on anything, so most of what these changes are is just fast balancer. And I think that this would be useful if your tracks are almost there, but not quite. Try adding fast balancer and just give it those little nudges. But then you don't necessarily need to abide by them, because maybe you'll have an instrument that doesn't fit very neatly within any of those categories. Then you can take the knowledge that you have of the generalities and explore a little bit, and maybe you don't need the intensity dialed all the way up, but maybe it'll nudge that track in the direction that you need it to. Give it a shot and have fun.